You have now seen all the configurations and can select any of the listed AI providers for either chat or code generation based on your preferences. In future, I may add more AI providers to this list. Therefore, I recommend you to subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Now let's see the features of Spec Coder extension. So let's close this. The first feature is this AI chat that we have already seen. It is like your friend who is always ready to help you with coding questions. Let's suppose first let's open the index.ts file, and let's suppose here we have this code, and let's rename this file to index.js. Next, here need to create index.html. Let's add HTML5 markup, and let's add a script tag, and immediately you can see it has suggested the code. Let's press tab to accept this, and here I will say index.js. Now in the browser, let's open this, and in the inspect tool, here we are getting error, uncode reference error, calculate area is not defined. But in this code, we are not able to find the issue. So what we can do, ask this to AI to find and fix the error. So let's copy this and press the key Ctrl+Shift+Q, and right here you can see this is the selected code, and in this chat we can ask anything about this code. So let's say we want to ask about this error. So copy this, let's paste this error and press enter. Immediately it has analyzes the code and find the issue. The error is the typo in the code, and here it has suggested the corrected code. Let's copy this and replace with this code. Save this. Now in the browser, now we get the correct answer, area of circle. The next feature is code autocomplete. So let's say if I type function calculate area and then type radius, and immediately it has auto-completed the code. Now let's suppose you do not want to use autocomplete feature. Instead, you want to generate code manually. So you can disable this feature. For that, let's open the settings, and in the AI assistance provider, here is the option enable autocomplete. Let's uncheck this to disable this. Now auto completion is disabled. Now you can trigger code generation manually. Now let's suppose you want to write a function to validate an email address. Instead of spending time writing the validation code yourself, you can use Spec Coder's generate code feature. So here let's say create a function to validate email address, and then press Ctrl+Shift+Enter, and immediately it has generated the email validation function. You can also run it from the command palette also. So let's remove this and press Ctrl+Shift+P or Command+Shift+P for Mac and search for generate code. This one, Spec Coder generate code, and press enter, and immediately it has generated this code. If you want, you can also change the key map. So for that, press Ctrl+Shift+P or Command+Shift+P for Mac and then search for generate code. This one, Spec Coder generate code, and here the key map is Ctrl+Shift+Enter, and click this gear icon and double click on these key bindings, and here you can choose your preferred keyboard binding. I prefer Ctrl+Shift+Enter, so I'm going to skip this. In this example, the instruction was in one line, but let's suppose you have instructions in multiple lines. So let's say here instruction is create a function that takes an array of numbers as input, and in the next line and returns a new array containing only the even numbers. Now in this case we have instruction in two lines. So if I press enter from here, it will only use this line as instruction. So in case of multiple lines, we need to select the complete instruction and then press Ctrl Shift Enter. And immediately it has created this complete function. The next feature is generating commit messages. Those little summaries of what you changed in your code. Would have them for version control, but sometimes coming up with something clear can be struggling. But this AI commit message going to help you with that. Let's see. So first, let's initialize get repository, and then here you can see this little icon that generates commit message. If I click this, we get the error missing stage files. So first let's add this to a stage, and then if I click on this generate commit message, it has immediately created this commit message. If you like emojis in your commit messages, then you can enable it. So first let's go to settings and scroll down. Here is the option for enable emojis in AI commit messages. Select this, and now let's click this generate commit message, and you can notice this emoji with commit message. Great. Now let's remove this. Now let's see our next feature. Next feature is generating Docstrings. Docstrings are like mini instruction manual for your code. They explain what a piece of code does, how to use it, and why it exists. So for example, for this function, if we need to create a docstring or docblog, we need to type manually comment, and then its param is array. This variable is an array and it returns array of even numbers. And then we need to type description that it returns even number of array. Instead of typing manual, we can use Spec Coder to generate this automatically. Let's see. So let's remove this, and let's remove these comments also, which is added by Spec Coder code generation, and select this entire function. And next open the command palette using Ctrl Shift P or Command Shift P for Mac, and here search for generate docstring. This one, first option. Press enter to run this command, and immediately within few seconds it has created this docstring for us for this function. Here the purpose of the function and the type of this variable and the variable description and return type and its description, and here is the example use case. Let's create a docstring for this email validation function also. So first let's remove these comments. Instead of this else, simply return false like this. Now select all this function and Ctrl Shift P and run this generate docstring command, and within few seconds it has written a docstring for this function. The purpose of the function, the params and return value. Similarly, let's try this for PHP also for this function. So let's remove these comments. It is not necessary to remove all these comments. To make it clean, I am removing these comments. Now select this function and again Ctrl Shift P and generate docstring, and here we have docblog for this function. Instead of writing this manually, Spec Coder has summarized it for us. It's like having a friend who summarizes what your code does in simple words. Let's see our next feature. If you like to create unit tests for your functions, then the next feature is going to be very useful for you. It automatically creates unit tests by using AI generated test cases. It makes sure the code works perfectly by creating tests for you. Let's see this. So let's suppose we want to create unit test for this validate email function. So select this function and press Ctrl Shift P or Command Shift P for Mac user and search for generate unit test, this option, and press enter, and here we go. It has created this unit test for us. It is using chai for these unit test cases. But let's say we do not want to use chai. Instead, I want to use jest. So let's remove this all test cases and here add a comment, use jest, and select this function. Then Control Shift P or Command Shift P and run this generate unit test command. And this time it has created these test cases using jest. So to see if all these cases are working fine, let's copy all these test cases. Let's go to test, index.test, paste it right here. And next here let's export this function and here import source index validate email. Now in the terminal let's run npm run test unit. All the tests are passing. Now you have tests that make sure your function works in different situations. With Spec Coder's generate unit test feature, testing your code becomes easy and quickly, so you can spend more time building cool stuff. Instead of making tests yourself, ask Spec Coder to do it for you. Now let's see the next feature. Sometimes coding can feel like solving a puzzle with lots of pieces. When you come across a piece of code that seems confusing, Spec Coder's Explain Code feature is here to help. Here's how it works. Let's say you are looking at a piece of code that seems tricky to understand. For now, let's assume this is the code. I know it is very easy and straightforward to understand. For this example, let's assume this code is tricky to understand. With the Explain Code feature, you can ask Spec Coder to help you figure it out. So for that, from the keyboard press Ctrl Shift P or Command Shift P for the Mac and search for Explain Code. This one, Spec Coder Explain Code. Instead of this, you can also run it from this chat. Clear this message and here we have button Explain Code. So select this and click this button and it will ask the AI chat to explain this code. Now this AI will break down this code into simpler parts and explain what each part does. It's like having a wise friend who can translate complicated code into plain English. If you are still confused, you can ask follow-up questions. For example, let's ask, explain this in brief. And it will break down this in simple words. So next time you are scratching your head over a confusing piece of code, don't worry, Spec Coder's Explain Code feature has got your back. Let's see our next feature. With the help of Spec Coder, you can optimize your code effortlessly with AI-powered suggestions for refactoring. We all write codes, but sometimes it can get a little messy over time, right? Spec Coder can suggest ways to tidy it up and make it work even better. Let's see how it works. So let's remove all of these. Here, let's say we have this example code. This function calculates the discount and adds tax, but it is not very clear or efficient. So let's see how we can refactor this with the help of Refactor feature. For that, first highlight all these function and Ctrl Shift P and search for Refactor code. This command, press enter and it is going to send this in the AI chat and ask for refactored code. And here we go, it has suggested this code. AI looks at the code and suggests smart changes to make it cleaner, faster and easier to understand. And right here, this is the refactored code it has suggested. And these are the changes it has made in this code. So let's copy this and replace it right here. Let's clear this message. And instead of command palette, you can also refactor code using this button, Refactor selected code. Let's see an example. So let's remove this, and let's say here we have this example code which is going to calculate total price, but it is not looking very clean. So let's select this all function, and in the AI chat click this Refactor selected code, and here it has provided the refactored code, and it is using reducer for that. Let's copy this and see the difference. Look at this huge function which is difficult to understand what is going on here, and this is refactored code. It is using reducer, which is clean and easy to understand. With the Spec Coder's refactor code feature, optimizing your code becomes easier, helping you write cleaner and more efficient code without the hassle. Now let's see our next feature. So let's remove this. The next feature is that it analyzes the complexity of your code and identifies areas of improvement. You can imagine it like a smart analyzer that checks your code for tricky parts, like a friend who helps you find easier way to do things. So let's say you are working on a project and want to make sure your code isn't too hard to understand. Instead of looking at every line yourself, you can ask Spec Coder's Find Complexity feature for help. So for that, let's take a look at this example code of finding the factorial of a number. At first glance, this function seems fine. However, Spec Coder's Find Complexity feature can analyze it further. Let's see. So select this code, and from the command palette, Ctrl+Shift+P, search for Find Complexity, this one, and run this command. And here you can see it has analyzed this code and pointed out it is using recursion right here, and it has suggested the necessary fix. The code can be optimized by using a loop instead of recursion. So here is the optimized code. Copy this and paste it here, and here you can compare these two codes. Right here it is using recursion, on the other hand here it is using for loop. By using a loop instead of recursion, the function becomes more efficient and easier to understand, especially for large numbers. This simplification improves the performance of the code and makes it more manageable. Now let's take a look at the next feature. So let's remove this. When you are coding and something doesn't work as expected, you might have a bug, but it is hard to identify where is the issue. Spec Coder's Find Bug feature helps you spot where the code isn't working correctly. Let's see how it works. Let's suppose here we have this code. In this code we have a function called calculate total that sums up all the numbers in an array. However, there is a minor bug in the for loop. Can you spot it? First, let's see this in the browser. Open the inspect tool, console, and refresh. Now here you can see we did not get the total. This code is looking fine and very difficult to identify the issue. So let's use the Spec Coder's Find Bug feature to identify the bug. So select this function, press Ctrl+Shift+P and search for Find Bug. This command, press enter, and here it finds the bug. So the issue is right here. Here we have used I less than equal to numbers.length. Instead, it should be I less than numbers.length, because array indices starts from 0, and using less than equal to sign causes the loop to try to access an element beyond the array's length, leading to an error. So let's try this code. So copy it and replace this code. Now let's see the browser, and here now we have result 150. Great, and now it is working. In conclusion, Spec Coder is all-in-one solution for smarter, faster and more efficient coding. With Spec Coder, you can streamline your coding workflow and improve productivity. If you have any thoughts, suggestions or ideas how we can improve Spec Coder, we would love to hear from you. Your feedback is invaluable in making Spec Coder even better. Don't hesitate to reach out. Your input helps us make Spec Coder the best it can be. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more coding tips, tutorials and updates. Happy coding!